Hi, Carmen Bunde with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Ambassador Real Estate, and I'm here with Bryan Brown of AGR Roofing and Contracting. And spring has sprung. We have had high winds in April, and we've started to have storms in May. And most homeowners want to know when to call a roofer. And so I wanted to give a quick primer to everybody with Bryan telling us what we need to be looking for. When do we call after a storm? So Bryan, what are some things that we need to keep an eye out when we're considering, do we call our insurance? Do we call a roofer? Who do we call after a storm?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me out to talk about this. It's an important subject right now, especially this time of year. So after a storm comes through, everybody thinks about calling a roofer or calling the insurance company. The insurance company will direct you back to call a professional to come out if you're concerned.
Okay.
Some of the insurance companies have people that they would recommend.
Sure.
Some preferred vendors,
Yep.
which we call them. Sometimes they'll just say have somebody come look at it and then come out if need be. So that's the first step. So if you've had a storm event, high wind, we've had a lot of that, or you've had some hail, we've had some hail move through the area recently, you want to consider what you want to do first, and that's usually call a professional.
All right, start by calling the roofer. All right, but what are we looking for to know whether we call the roofer?
Sure. You had mentioned we were talking about this particular property, and you look at the roof, and the roof looks fine.
As we're walking up, I didn't see anything obviously wrong.
Sure. So hail is very deceptive.
Okay.
Sometimes we've had some really big hailstorms, 17, 19, really obvious damage. But other times we've had hail come through that's sizable enough to compromise the shingles on the roof.
Okay.
But you can't really see it from the ground.
Okay.
So if you're not comfortable going on your roof to have it looked at, then it's time to call a professional out to have it looked at.
Okay. And we're going to go around to the other side and see where there's some obvious damage on the roof. But what should people be looking for, even just if they're walking around their house? Are they looking for anything beyond the roof?
Sure. Other things get damaged, obviously, besides just the roof.
Okay.
We talk about the roofs all the time, but with that comes along what we call soft metals. Your gutters, garage doors, even like vinyl siding.
Okay.
Right here on this particular house, there's hail hits from hail coming into the house that has actually broken the siding.
Okay.
And on this particular property, all the siding is going to be replaced because of hail damage.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're looking at your siding, your gutters, your downspouts.
Yep.
I know even in our situation back in, I think it was 19 or 17, I forget now, is that even our grill, the insurance even replaced our grill because it just got pummeled.
Sure.
So, I mean, that was one piece of evidence that showed just how much hail was hitting the home. And then even window frames. I think that was something you pointed out at a couple of my clients' properties. Yeah, was looking at the trim around the windows.
We see that often missed. And if you think about the window package on your house, it's one of the most expensive things to replace when it's time for windows to be replaced. So windows are an opportunity for you in a storm situation to make sure you know what kind of window you have and if that window would take damage. There's certain manufacturers that the way they're built, they're more susceptible to hail damage.
Okay.
We won't mention the names of those particular ones, but you want to be looking at your windows, and if they have a dent in it that's not caused by a kid's soccer ball or baseball or something, but a little round dent of some kind, you probably have some hail damage on the windows themselves.
Okay. And that's still something that can be evaluated by a roofer, right?
Correct. For instance, AGR, we do full scope insurance claims, which means anything that particular storm damaged in that situation, we will have the capability to help you either guide you to how to get it fixed, or we have the crews to take over for you.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's move over here and we'll take a look at the shingles so that people can see kind of what to look for that might be more obvious without having to climb on the roof.
Sure. Carmen didn't want to climb on the roof today.
No.
Wind is obviously more apparent to us, and it stands out more to us because it's such a violent event.
Yes.
Right? So when you come out of your house, if you have any kind of shingles when you look at your roof that are displaced, the roof here is missing some shingles.
Yes, it is.
from a previous event back in December. If y'all remember, December 15th, we had a really bad wind come through, and this roof was moved and moved around, and some shingles actually broke off.
Okay.
Is it time for an insurance claim? Maybe not, but that's why you call the roofer out first to see, is it a simple repair that needs to be done that's going to be low cost,
right,
or is it more extensive damage? On this particular roof, and you can't see it, it actually has lifted up sections and laid the section right back down. So it looks fine, but when we go up and we touch it, we can actually pick up a whole section of the roof because it's loose.
And that happened on one of my clients that you helped out with. And we found out because the neighbor reported it.
Sure.
They called, the mom had not been living there. The daughter was out of state. The neighbor called the daughter and said, hey, I noticed an entire corner of the shingles lifting up. So one good courtesy is to just pay attention to each other's roofs in a windstorm and let your neighbors know if you see something lifting up, because you wouldn't always see it because you're not usually out in the wind.
Yeah, and a good indicator of a real wind event is if you wake up and you have branches in your yard.
Oh, sure.
If you wake up and there's debris down. If you wake up and someone's fence in the neighborhood's knocked over. You've had high wind through your area.
Okay.
So that's a really good time to think back and look at, okay, maybe I need to walk my property and really look at it. We don't look at our properties that way. We don't look at our roof that way, our siding. But if you've seen indications, or if you see yard signs start popping up in your neighborhood, it's probably time to call somebody in to look at it.
Okay, so here's the big question. In Nebraska, lately, some of the windstorms, it feels like we could be calling you every other week.
Sure.
How often do you want homeowners to call you to just make sure, if it's been very strong in their particular neighborhood and they've felt it at home?
Sure.
How often should we be calling you?
As often as necessary. We don't control the weather. We don't get to dictate of hey, we've had enough high wind, it's over now. So if you've had a high wind event and it's starting to tear the roof up, it's time to call. If it happens again, it's time to call again. You have to call as many times. Sometimes the roof will get lifted up like we were just discussing. It'll lay back down, but no longer, it's not waterproof anymore.
Sure.
So you may not have a leak yet, but you may have a leak that may occur. Right? So having a professional come out to look at that and assess it, like we had big wind year before last, and we looked at a lot of properties that had just sections of the roof that we had to repair. But first thing is you have to watertight it, which means you have to call a professional out to tarp the roof for you.
Awesome. So I want everyone to know that Bryan is a great resource. AGR Roofing and Construction is a great resource. And make sure that you're taking a look at your home, walking around it with the eye towards, is there damage? Do I need to call a roofer? If you're not sure, but you think something pretty major happened in your area, call the professional and let them tell you. So if you have any other questions, call Bryan at AGR, call Carmen first, and have a great day.